everyone to the June 18th, 2014 regular meeting of the Wareham Housing Authority. I'd ask everyone to turn off their electronic devices and rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Indivisible.
Yeah, I always miss that.
What we should have is under God, like they use Obama or.
Well, if I missed that one up there.
Just for everyone's benefit, I'd like to introduce Mr. Tom Joy, the fee accountant for the Wareham Housing Authority.
Hi, Tom.
Down
Nice to meet you.
at my left, your right, is Donna Braun. Next to her is Jane Donahue. Next to her is Bill Lockwood. And next to him is myself, Bob Paulides, and Miss Hickey, our administrator. And next to her is Barbara Johnson, our scribe for the day. And next to him is you, her is you. All right, so at this point, I'll ask for a roll call. All present except for Mr. Santos, who is at his wife's side. First order of business would be to approve the minutes of the previous meeting, which was emailed to everyone and was also, I think, in the package in front of you. May 21st?
Yeah, yes, you're right, I'm sorry.
Right.
Motion to accept.
Motion by Mr. Lockwood. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Donahue. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
4-0-0. Okay. Next item on the agenda is the authorization to pay bills that the administrator has found to have sufficient supporting documentation, and that will be in the packages in that large loose leaf binder there that has all the vouchers and the. Pardon me? No, I'm sorry, I can't. I need a foghorn. I'll try. Well, we started out by approving the minutes of the meeting. Now we're on approving the bills that have come in, and the administrator has reviewed and approved for payment so that we can sign them. And in that last meeting, we required a signature of 2 members, and the vouchers would have to be signed by 3 members because we can't meet in between meetings. So that seems to be satisfactory methodology. So we have a motion on that.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Donahue, seconded by Mr. Lockwood. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So carried.
Donna who made the motion.
Yeah, it was Ms.
I
Dawn.
thought so, Don.
Thank you.
Pardon me? I'm sorry.
Don Bronco.
I'm sorry. Seconded by
Bill.
No.
No.
Seconded by Bill. Motion by Ms. Strong. Okay. Just a brief update. Since our last meeting, Bill Lockwood prepared 3 packages to go to the Community Preservation Committee. One was for the conversion of the office into an additional dwelling unit and moving the office up to here. The other were 2 potential acquisitions from the town pending their release and surplusing of those east and west schools that may or may not, should be coming up for disposition in the near future. So those were filed by the deadline. We didn't have a lot of time, but they were filed by the deadline of June 2nd. Ms. Hickey and myself went to their board meeting, when was that, last week? Last week, where they discussed some other issues, but they discussed our applications. The first thing we did was discuss the applications that were approved at town meeting for the crawl space plumbing and the floor, the replacement of floors here at Agawam Village. We wanted to square away the protocols, and based on our research and their research, we found that after the town approves those fundings, that funding for us, it's like an appropriation, and it jumps from 44B, the CPC statute, to 41, chapter 41 Mass General Laws, which is the municipal finance laws, and it's the town treasurer then has custody. So we will go forward and contract with people to do that work, provide the CPC committee with after we vote and approve the bills, the CPC committee will forward it to them, they will vote and approve it and forward it to the treasurer, and they will then make direct payment. We're not gonna be reimbursed. So that was the protocol that they and we agreed on. The other two items were the buildings that I brought up, and the chairman of the CPC committee indicated that the town has yet to make a decision on those two schools. They're under the impression that the East Wareham school has a codicil on it that it only can be used for school purposes. So if the town has no use for it, then the trust, whatever it is, the Toby Trust would then have to make a decision as to whether to put it up for other purposes or take it back or whatever. But we await on that time frame, and then we can decide on moving forward to acquire that property. In the meantime, as I explained to Bill, I did speak to Mass Housing Finance Agency as to some suitable project developers. They gave me the name of several. I contacted, what's the name of that triangle? What's the name of that one? The one with Keith?
I think it is triangle.
Something. I contacted one. They were willing to come down and look at the property, but they called me last Friday when they were had other complications, so they will contact me when they can come down and make a visit so that we can take a view. And I don't know if you would be able to get the keys to those buildings so we could get in. I know one of them is open, so we could probably go in there, but at least we can get around and look the outside of the property.
Yeah. If we get a date,
All right. When they contact me, I'll get in touch with you. So that's where that stands. Any questions, comments about CPC applications, where it stands?
No, I know that Bill was putting together some paperwork for them and
They're there. 2 packages.
budgets, et cetera.
These are the front
I left one on each, I think you got it there. Yeah, that's one, that's the application, east and
Okay.
west, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
And then there was the third one was for the office.
The
I didn't
renovation,
see that one.
they kept them. We
Oh,
didn't
okay.
get them. The town wanted all
Since
10 of them.
Since they accepted the proposal, they kept
Oh,
the
that's right.
proposals. Since they rejected the proposal, at least for the time being, they
They
gave
came
back
back
to
to
us.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't say,
But you're certainly welcome to take a look.
the CPC committee did approve the application for the conversion of the rental units.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that was a good sign. All right, so quickly on the audit update, I did communicate with this.
One more CPC. My appointment had been approved. The Board of Selectmen granted special municipal employee status to myself as well as all other board members. So now free to go forward with acceptance of that position. Paperwork was not in order as of last Wednesday in time for the meeting, but I will go over to Town Hall following this meeting and see if I can get myself sworn in.
Okay, well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You'll be a good addition to that group and any other group you decide to add to.
Yeah, well,
All
be
right.
careful what I wish for.
Yeah, under item D, under old business, I did communicate with the auditor's office, and they,
You need a motion on C.
No. The auditor's office did receive our letter. We are in the queue. When they have some available people in this geographical area, they will assign someone to the audit, and they'll send us an engagement letter, so forth and so on, and we'll move forward on that. We'll try to have a special scope audit, so it's not a fishing expedition and not a general purpose attestation of financial statements. We'll have them look at certain aspects of the operations for FY14 and 13, so we can see where we stand. So I'm gonna skip item E, since Mr. Joy is here and he has some other business to attend to with some other authorities who have whatever issues they got going on and need him. So at this point, I'd like to introduce Mr. Tom Joy, our fee accountant for the Wareham Housing Authority, and ask him, first, Tom, could you give us a little background on yourself, your experience, also something about this concept of the fee accountant, how it works, and then your role and responsibility in working with authorities to prepare financial statements, budgets, your interrelationship with DHCD, etc., and so forth.
Okay. Well, my name is Thomas Joy. Educational background, I graduated Boston College School of Business in 1969, and I obtained a master's from Suffolk University shortly after that. I worked for the Commonwealth of Mass as the Director of Finance for 11 years, from 1970 to 81. In 81, I went on
What
my own
department?
Department of Housing and Community Development, Director of Finance. It wasn't called that back then, it was DCA back then.
Yeah.
Actually, I started when John Volpe was governor. And
Really?
he was before,
Sergeant?
Sargent, he was the governor before Frank Sargent, so
Yeah.
that's how far, that was way
Who was
back.
before Volpe?
I don't remember.
Was it Ferkel? Was it Herder? Who was it? I don't know. Anyway.
Anyway,
But anyway, were you there when Ed King was over there too?
oh yeah,
Herb King? Not Herb. Herb King.
Herb King was an accountant.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Ed King was governor.
That's right.
And I spent 11 years in there. They were formidable years because the department was growing then. There was a lot of new housing going on. There was a lot of finance going on. I was in charge of finance, mostly selling notes and bonds to develop housing. That was one of the departments I had. Also, the big change that took place during that time was housing authorities became subsidized. There was a move in the federal government to start putting a cap on what elderly and families would pay for rent, and at the time it was 25%. But once you capped the revenues on your budget, you created a need for subsidy. And in Massachusetts, the Massachusetts senator from Western Mass, State Senator Ed Brooke, put the Brooke Amendment in, and the Brooke Amendment mirrored the federal amendment to cap rents at 25%, and that was in 1973. So in 1973, we received our first appropriation of operating subsidy to subsidize housing authorities. So my job at that point was then to develop a budget process that was acceptable to the state comptroller to show how we were managing housing authorities, and then to develop a process of how we were going to send the money out to housing authorities for what they were qualified for. And as a matter of fact, that same process that they do to determine what your subsidy eligibility is still the same process today that it was in 1973. So I left there in 1981 after 11 years to go to work as a fee accountant for local housing authorities. And I've been doing that ever since for the past 33 years. I became a fee accountant here in Wareham, I believe, in 1984. In fact, it was in this very office. Although I do remember going down Town Hall and meeting with a fellow, I think his name was Fernandez, who was doing some of the bookkeeping back then.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not positive of the name, but anyway, I've been here for almost 30 years. In my role and responsibility here is I maintain the general ledgers. I receive monthly documents from the director, the administrator. She prepares for me the bank statements, check registers, tenant rent rolls, items of that nature. I then take that with me and enter that into my general ledger, enter all the checks into the, I re-enter everything. I don't enter individual rents by tenant. I enter one fee for rents, but I enter every individual check. I also partially maintain the payroll system here. The administrator does the weekly paychecks. I do the monthly tax deposits, the quarterly tax returns, and the year-end tax returns, and the W-2s.
Not 1099s?
We do them together. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. 'Cause no, we don't have many, but, well, they do in the leased housing program, but not as far as vendors go.
Yeah.
There's only a few 1099 vendors. Let me see. You know, interrupt me too at any time if you have a question.
I'm
anything
sorry I
said.
did, because now it's got you off track, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
that's all right. I did bring some reports I wanted to show you today on the operating statement that we submit to the boards to look at comparing budget to actual. And it's important to note that the operating budget and the operating statement are mostly for routine expenditures. There isn't much in our budget where we can put in items that are major or capital in nature. We do put some money in for unit turnovers, but we could never put in a large dollar amount. We have to maintain a certain operating reserve level, and it's around $30,000. Currently, we have $41,000 in our operating reserve. So we don't have a lot of operating reserve money that we can say, oh, let's go out and do a major job and run it through the operating budget. That has to go through your formula funding and your modernization capital plan. That's a whole different process. And it's not an annual budget, there's an annual allocation that they set aside so many dollars for each LHA, and then the housing authority goes in and says, these are the jobs we'd like to do. So we do end up sometimes in emergency cases have to pay for something out of the operating budget. You know, if a boiler lets go or something like that, we have to pay for that to keep the place going. You can't wait. So, you know, and when you look at these budgets of housing authority, I'm gonna pass out something and we'll talk about it, but when you look at some of the numbers on it, for example, the amount of money that we have in our budget, and by the way, too, our budget is what they call a clean budget. We don't have any requests for exemptions for things that are crazy on the budget. There's no reason that we shouldn't get approval every year automatically on our budget. We're right inside the guidelines. They give you a cap on how much you can grow. They give you a cap on certain line items like salaries, and labor and industry wage rates. We stay right within all the line items. And but yet we haven't had an approval now in 2 years. But some of the line items I want to point out, the things that we do control, and I'll show you some of the things that we don't control. That are,
Sorry, can you repeat what you just said? We haven't had an approver or an approval?
an approved budget in 2
An
years.
approved budget.
The last one that was approved was the year ending 6/30/12. 13 is still in there, and 14 has been in there back and forth, and we got 1 week left in the 10 days
13
left.
had a lack of signatures,
That's
correct?
correct. Right.
Thank you.
But when you look at some of the numbers in the budget, and numbers that you really control, things like maintenance materials, one of the things that DHCD does is they compare one housing authority to another housing authority with a number that they call a PUM, and that means your per unit month cost, PUM cost. And that way you can compare a Wareham to a Plymouth, a small housing authority to a large housing authority, because the PUM is based on how many units you have. The dollar figure is divided by the number of units, you get a per unit cost. And that, what they have in our budget and what we're allowed to get in there works out to be a little bit over $12.40 a unit a month. That's what we have for maintenance materials. $12.42 or something like that, you know. And when you think of that, you know, if you go out and buy a gallon of paint, it's $40.
Yeah.
So that's already, that one unit is already over their amount. So you don't really have a lot of money in these budgets. But let me pass out, and I'm going to show you how the budget, how you can look at the budget to actual, and you can see how the subsidy, I'm going to show you how the subsidy works, how we get subsidy out of that, and the numbers that we control and the numbers that we don't control. I put this 6 here.
Thank you. While you're doing that, can you tell us, how do we compare with other housing authorities relative to how long it takes to get a budget approved? When is the normal time to submit a budget? Here we are in June. I, for one, would like to have already worked up our estimated FY15 budgets and been working on it. But why does it take so long, number one, for them to give us the okay to get going on it, and then second, why do they take so long to approve them?
Right.
Even for authorities that are in total compliance, like we were for 14.
Right. Well, what the problem starts with the state doesn't know how much money they're going to have in their annual appropriation. And housing authorities are split into all 4 calendar quarter fiscal years. You happen to be a June 30th or a July 1 fiscal year. By the time DHCD gets their number, and this happens historically every year,
For FY15
but, yeah,
coming up.
for whatever year it is.
Right.
They have to then promulgate their guidelines and say, we're gonna allow you to grow this much, or you're gonna, your salary increases can be this much. By the time those budget guidelines come out, it's the middle of October. Sometime in October,
Yeah.
we usually get this. So we're already in the fourth
But they
month.
got the number in July.
Yeah.
The FY15 budget, 14 budget is approved in July. They should have this 99% pro forma. They know darn well what the governor submitted, what the House and Senate are working on. They know what's in conference. They know now pretty much what the number is. And it's not gonna vary 20 million bucks. It's gonna vary a million here, a million there.
Right.
So to me, that's unacceptable
That's when they
to
usually get.
continue
them
to
out.
operate like this.
So then what happens when they come out that late, they'll send a schedule of due dates for the budgets to be submitted, and they'll give you 30 days after the guidelines come out. And so that means what they are getting into coming back into their office after these come out, are all the July 1 and all the October 1 budgets at the same time. They'll be
Yeah.
probably doing by, like, say, November 15th.
Yeah,
So they're getting half of the year's budgets coming into their desk at one point. in
yeah.
time. Now, they're supposed to turn those budgets around, I think between 30 and 45 days is what they say they will attempt to do.
There's plenty of time.
But a lot of times what happens is we submit a budget, and when you go on the computer and look at it, it'll still say the budget's been submitted. Once somebody in DHCD opens it, it'll say it's been received. And they usually start the clock the day they open it, and it says received.
So they delay the opening.
Right. And then, like we checked today on your budget, I had to revise the budget this year, because I talked to the finance people and got them to give us an additional 11,700 in subsidy
In DC.
at DHCD, and they said, yeah, we'll agree to do that, but you have to submit a budget, not a revision, because it's not even approved. You have to revert the budget back to the housing authority and then modify it for the 11,700.
And the clock starts ticking all over again.
Right, so then it went back in, and that was on May 30th. So when we look today, it still says submitted May 30th. So that means nobody's even opened it
Yeah.
yet.
So,
So anyway, this what I passed out to you is a very similar looking to the budget in the state operating system. But this is actually a form very similar to the one I used when I was at DHCD. And the reason I like this form better is in the middle of the page, it has a B off to the right-hand column.
yeah,
That's called your total non-utility cost. And you see I have a figure circled there? That's
Yeah.
the budgeted total non-utility cost. They try to maintain and keep you inside that budgeted figure. The other two items that make up the determination of subsidy are revenue and utilities, and those are based on actuals. So the key number to work on and keep the housing authority without going over into the reserve is keep that budgeted non-utility with the actual being lower than it. And in this case, you're $16,000 lower.
to the good, yeah.
Now, when you look at that budgeted non-utility figure going up, you say, okay, the HCD looks at that as those are controllable costs that housing authority should maintain and control. However, if you look above that and start going up the line items, you have employee benefits at $27,000. Employee benefits all come from political subdivisions of the state. You have the retirement bill, group insurance bill, unemployment tax. We have no control over those.
Right.
Above that, $14,400 for insurance. Insurance includes property insurance, it's bid by DHCD. Workman's compensation insurance, set by the Commissioner of Insurance. Truck insurance, set by the Commissioner of Insurance. You go up from there, and contract cost, $11,400. And by the way, that current budget, $11,400, is only 9 months worth of the budget. I'm looking up, just going up the same column.
Okay.
Contract costs, we pretty much control some of them, but others like rubbish removal, we're at the mercy of the bidding process on that, so we really don't have total, we can pick and choose who we want, the lowest bidder, but we'll still have to take a bid on that.
Yeah.
Maintenance materials and supplies, $11,625, that's where the $2.40 per unit month figure I gave you comes from. We control that. Above that, maintenance labor, $68,679. Those wage rates are set by the Commissioner of Labor and Industry. The only thing we control there is the number of hours the men work. We don't control what they get paid.
Tom, I'm sorry, can I
Yeah.
interrupt you for 1 second?
Sure.
Did you say that the current budget figures are at 90% of the full
9
year?
months.
9 months.
Yeah.
So this is only a 75% figure.
Right, the annual budget is the
Is-
figure in the far left column. And this report was prepared for the quarter ending 3/31/2014 at the top, and it's, underneath it says it's 9 months. I was just using that column as an example to show you how much of this we really control. Administration, you do have a lot of control. You have administrative other, that's all the office supplies, all the office costs, printing, postage, computers. I'm above that, you control that. Travel, you pretty much have control over. Legal and administrative salaries, you choose who you're gonna hire and what you pay them. And so you pretty much have good control. But when you break it all down and you say, how much of this $195,000 do we really control? You might come up with 70, 75, you know? Not a lot. So anyway, I just wanted to highlight that. This is the non-utility section of the budget. This is the section that DHCD holds a tight rein on you on. You want to stay under that number. We've always been able to stay under it, which is a good thing because most housing authorities can't stay under it. But yet, it's not a lot of it that we really do have a lot of control over. I mean, if group insurance rates go up, we got to pay them. You know, when the retirement system goes up, we got to pay it. So anyway, what they do at the end of the year to determine what you're entitled to is they take your budgeted non-utility, the budgeted figure now, not the actual, the budgeted non-utility figure, and they add to that columns the total utilities, which is C down below. They take the actual utilities. So the expense portion of your budget is made up of the budgeted non-utilities plus actual utilities. So B plus C, as I wrote on the top of the page, B plus C. Then they subtract from that A, which is your revenue, which is primarily the rental income received from tenants. And that will determine your subsidy entitlement for the year. So it's budgeted non-utility expenses, actual utility expenses, and actual revenue is then subtracted. And that'll give you a subsidy. What they try to do is they're supposed to be sending you out a piece of your subsidy on a quarterly basis, and then whatever you get for the year, then they reconcile either they owe you or you owe them at the end of the fiscal year.
But they don't do that.
They haven't been doing it here this year. They haven't received too much subsidy money.
They didn't do it until after we finally started having communications and finally got our state senator and state representative to intercede for us, which we appreciate, and they started to react. But I still think there's no reasonable explanation for them holding you hostage and playing.
In the past, Tom, if I may, Mr. Chairman, in the
Sure.
past, they've given us our subsidy on a quarterly basis with no
Pretty
problem.
much so, yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Yes. On the bottom of the page D, these are non-routine expenses. Normally, the extraordinary maintenance, the 16,000 budget, 23,000 actual on the bottom, that's normally for unit turnover or extraordinary expenses. You've got to bring a skilled craftsman on the property for something that's a large bill. Something that contract costs would not normally budget for. Contract costs, you try to foresee that you're going to use so much plumbing and so many electricians, you put some numbers up there, but you can have situations where you're going to need more money for extraordinary maintenance, and it will go down as a non-routine expenditure under extraordinary maintenance. And the replacement of equipment, we don't have a lot of money we put in there. The budget is for $3,800. Normally, that's ranges and refrigerators. Occasional snow blower or occasional lawnmower or something like that might end up down there. But even with that, if that D came to reality, that $27,407, at the end of the year, that has nothing to do with the subsidy. That would get subtracted from our reserves. However, in this particular budget, you can see on B, we're $16,000 under the subsidy, under the non-utility cap, so we're $16,000 ahead. So that's why when you take the $16,000 you're ahead up there, subtract out the 27, you're still $10,000 ahead on the bottom of the page. So
Let me just point out to the issue that Jane brought up relative to the subsidy. I remember talking to you about this last year, not 14, but FY13. They didn't get their budget on time properly, because you recall we got a letter from Chris DeVore indicating that generally if there is a need for subsidy, we hear from the authorities fee accountant or the authorities director. We have not heard from them. If you have a concern, please contact us and contact AO Kim Gomez or Courtney Curran, but we didn't have subsidy last year, FY13, until well into the end of the year like we did this year. You recall that, remember?
I think so, yeah. I'd have to look up the legend.
I can show you
I remember that letter
Yeah.
because they said that the fee accountant hadn't spoken to them, and I had spoken to IO the week before.
yeah.
But
That was in May.
Then they put the letter out saying he hasn't spoken. I just said, why don't you go over and talk to finance and find out how you talk to them.
Right, yeah, I just wanna, so,
Yeah.
they aren't consistent. So,
Can I just interject
go
too?
ahead.
We have two letters from DHCD, fiscal year 14 and fiscal year 15, saying that they will give 10 equal installments for their subsidy. They've never, I mean, last year they signed it, this year they signed it. We've not received 10 equal payments.
I've
from
never
them,
seen them send out
so,
10 to anybody.
Yeah,
The
Yeah.
most,
I-
the most you're gonna get is 5.
yeah.
Usually 4 for quarterly, but sometimes 5.
But we sign the documents
Yeah,
agreeing to
exactly.
this, and they make you sign it, but then they don't live up to their bargain. And if you're on a subsidy, you know, you have ups and downs in your operating costs. Sometimes you get high costs during the beginning of the year or different times of the year, so you need the subsidy. To come and give it to you in June, or even in July, when the fiscal year is over, to me, it probably violates the state finance laws, because then you're giving you last year's money next year for costs that occurred in the previous year.
Right.
So it's just nuts.
Just to be clear on the subsidy and how it relates to what you do, Tom, it's not up to you to go back to them and say, where's the subsidy for our housing authority? It would be up to us, the board or the administrator here. Is that
Right,
correct?
yeah. I mean, I can assist and help because I know these people, but.
Thank you. That would be helpful, I'm sure, and I'm sure you have been.
Oh, yeah.
Now, when you look at
yes.
these 3 categories too, you can see that the rents, we can be pretty close on estimating the rents, because we know what the rent roll is when
Yeah.
it produces, but in particular, if we're already in 4 months into the year, in
Mhm.
October. The non-utility, they'll give us a figure like that 260,000 beside the circle figure, that was the
Mhm.
cap last year. They'll probably come out and say this year that can grow 4%, so that's $10,000, so we pretty much know what that figure's gonna be.
Yeah,
It's the utilities that changes the budget. It's how bad the winter was, how much did we spend on electricity and gas?
yeah,
That number can go way up. In the last
Yeah.
couple of years, it's been going down because of electric companies now using natural gas
Yeah.
to fire their plants. And the natural gas is so cheap, electricity's going down and
Yeah.
getting cheaper. So, but if we have a bad winter and we run out of natural gas for some unforeseeable reason, we could have real high utility bills. And then the subsidy's gonna go skyrocket.
they gave us a little bump this year for snow and ice removal because of the winter, you
Right.
know that. so
I had a revision in for that.
You put it in a revision for that, right?
That just means they have extra money in there.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think different from when you were there as opposed to now, they want these other pockets of money that they have, and they control them, so you're at their beck and call to beg and for emergency mod or this or that.
Right.
There's always unforeseen circumstances that come up. I mean, we're in a high wind area, this power was out here for years. In that regard, when we deal with these capital projects that, from the CPC or the generators that we got, do you capitalize those on the balance sheet?
Yes,
Okay, good.
there was 2 of them.
Right, 2 generators. And then when we do the CPC stuff in the community preservation for the moving of the office and the plumbing and the flooring, and then when we get the projects from the state to do the envelopes and everything, those will be capitalized, right?
Every one of those thing is capitalized. If it's less than $10,000, we usually expense it in the first year though.
Yeah.
Capitalize it and write it off in the first year. We don't do depreciation schedules on a $3,000 job.
No, okay. Go ahead.
Any questions?
Your formula up the top, B plus C minus A equals subsidy. Where does D fall into that?
D is the non-routine section,
And that's just separate from
totally
that?
separate. And
Okay.
even if you live within the top and everything breaks even on the top, what you spend out of the bottom on D will go right against your reserve. Say everything else here broke even at exactly 0, and we had $10,000 down below, our reserve would go down by 10,000.
Where's that?
fix those, there may be some, I may have misallocated some of this money.
Okay, as in subsidy, very good.
All right, any other questions? Do you have any? Can I think of any more? Let's see, capitalize, talked about capitalization. How are your other clients? Are they also pending subsidy?
Subsidies have been slow this year, budget approvals have been very slow. I have all the other July 1st housing authorities back, but I still don't have October 1st housing authorities back. So they've been 9 months into the fiscal year. You had 12 months into your fiscal year.
Yeah,
10 days left and it's over.
right.
So,
But we've received assurances verbally from our legislative delegation that we're on target, and Jackie has received telephone communications that we're on target to receive the FY14 in July, the end of it, the rest of it, the balance of it.
So what this statement says is that of the 72,000 that we expect to receive, we've received 54? Is that what, am I reading that correctly, Tom?
I didn't see that,
Well, I'm looking at line 7,300, operating subsidy received earned. The annual budget, we're expecting...
no, what that, all that is doing is taking 75% of that figure.
Oh.
The
Well, that
current
doesn't
budget
help.
column is 75% of,
Okay, so there's another operating statement that you have.
the actual figure, but at this time of this writing, we hadn't received anything.
Oh,
Right,
okay.
if you figure the right of it, there's nothing in that column.
So it's a big zero
Yeah,
there.
so it's zero now, but it's
With
zero
this-
as of March.
March 31st
But
is this time.
as of June, it's what, about 10, 20, 43,000 or
Yeah.
something?
Yeah, 43,000.
Yeah, something like that.
Well, we did receive the 11,470, but that doesn't count against our operating, so they're letting us keep that as a perk to increase the operating reserve. Because our reserve ended up last year at 41,000 and change, and they're letting us keep the 11,470 to bring it up to 53,000.
So that's 43 without the 11.
That's right.
All right. So we're still looking for another 12,000 about.
Right.
All right.
I have a question. We don't contribute to a replacement reserve category?
No, under GAAP accounting, the way they do government GAAP accounting now,
Right.
they don't have replacement reserves anymore. We used to. We used to have operating reserves, we used to have capital reserves. They no longer,
Because I know the private sector still.
Sure, they all do.
Operate with them, and I was wondering, they don't have anything like that, huh?
no.
So what do they don't have you maintain a certain amount in there for emergencies?
They try to keep you at 20% of what they think they take one half of your budget, your total budget,
Okay.
and then they take 20% of that figure. And they see, let me see, I got a budget right here. The budget total expenses was 508,000, so that's 254, so 20% would be 44,000. So we're right at the 20% mark.
Okay.
No, I know what you're saying, because I have a few housing authorities that have other programs that are not through the Commonwealth of Mass, Farmers Home Development in Wareham, and I have a tax credit down the Cape in Mashpee. They have all types of reserves. They have reserves for
Yeah.
capital, they have capital needs assessment study reserves, they
Yeah.
have reserves for,
We don't even do capital needs here, do we?
we do,
Studies?
that's done, do they do a study? Yes, I
Yeah.
believe they do. They've got a needs assessment study, right?
Yeah, the thing is, Donna, they keep that money now. DHCD keeps that reserve. They get that out of bond funds.
Right.
In the old days, it was different. Now, the state goes out and has a bond issue every so often. They've set aside so much for housing authorities, so much for the state highways or colleges and universities or whatever.
Right.
And they control the piece, and they make you jump through hoops to apply and build a plan, which hadn't been done, and Jackie is now on target with them. She has very frequent conference call meetings with DHCD to go over the capital project side. So we're now up to speed, and that's why we got these buildings put on a faster, slower track.
I guess that's where I'm a little bit lost. I'm trying to figure out where they get the funding to do additional, necessary upgrades and that type of thing. Because where I come from, it's always been, you budget, replacement reserve, and then you put your bills in and you take it out and
Right.
return it to your operating fee, but we don't do that here, so.
That's why I started with telling you that these budgets are
Yeah.
strictly for operating.
Yeah.
They don't include enough dollars to do capital needs or major renovations, or even an expensive emergency repair. You couldn't afford that. Like if the truck lets up,
Yeah.
we have no way within this budget to buy another truck.
So,
No. The only other way we could do something that was reasonably capital would be to, this extraordinary maintenance, replacement of equipment, we'd have to estimate the time frame, the life of the truck, or some of this other stuff, and put it in and ask them to approve it under non-routine expenditures.
They try to get you to do as much as you can with the formula funding, the capital money that they have. But they have made exceptions in the past, like they did with the reserve money they're letting us keep this year. And those are called DHCD directed exemptions. And you can go to them and say, listen, I don't have any money to buy a truck. Can you put a directed exemption in there for a $32,000 vehicle so we can replace the truck? And then occasionally they'll approve something like that.
Yeah.
And that $32,000 will then be just added to your subsidy to offset the cost of the vehicle. That's similar to, they gave us a few dollars this year for snow removal, $3,000 something dollars. That's a DHCD directed exemption.
Yeah. I mean, a couple of years ago, they had a program for replacing toilet seats or something,
Right.
But
There's
see,
all of
they-
these
They
initiatives.
get into these areas, to me, it's not proper, it's unfair, because those housing authorities that are larger or got more clout get a bigger piece of the pie, just like they get a bigger piece of the whole total $80-70 million in subsidy.
Right.
We get what's left.
With the big towns.
If they like it,
She was
you get
asking
more,
for stuff
if they don't like it, you get less. And I don't know
And if
what-
you don't ask, you don't get
And if
anything.
you don't know, you don't get anything.
Right.
Okay, anything further from the fee account conversation? Anything else, Tom?
Did you
Well,
bring-
I'd like to continue preparing that same report on a quarterly basis in conjunction with DHCD's report. Because the board should be receiving DHCD's report now, that's another new regulation they have, on a quarterly basis. And we can print those out and bring them to the next meeting, and then the timing of the reporting, the June 30th reports are due in DHCD between August 15th and the 20th of the month. Okay, and so that would probably make your August board meeting.
Absolutely, yeah.
So,
What
So-
about our July meeting?
about the
do you
one
want
we
these
just did
monthly
for
or
March?
quarterly?
We'd want them quarterly,
Yeah, that's what July, they wouldn't be done for your July meeting.
okay.
I started an authority to pick up records after the bank statements and everything's been received. And that's usually around the 15th of the month.
Okay.
And I try to come down before that, well, I have to come down before that because the tax deposits are due by the 15th of the month.
Yeah.
So I try to get here around the 10th, 12th, but sometimes I'm here and the bank statements aren't here yet.
Yeah.
But we can always get the bank statements, even if they're not in the mail, we can always contact the bank, they'll print them out.
I think you can go online now.
Banking now.
Go
Yes, we
online.
have online
Yeah, we
banking
got online
capabilities, so we
banking.
could actually get them to you
Yeah.
sooner.
Yeah,
How about the quarterly report for the previous quarter? And you're talking about giving us a report for the end of June and August, I'm sorry. What about the previous quarterly report? Is that not available?
this one?
This is it?
That's the
This
one
is
that I
March.
prepared. Yeah, but you can also get the one,
But this is all that gets prepared, there's nothing else?
so there's the
no-
electronic one that's done, that's
Yeah.
submitted to DHCD.
That's what I'm
Yeah, I'll get, we can
Yeah.
get them, yeah.
Yeah, you should get those as
Yeah.
well.
That's what,
What's that consist of, the electronic, is that the balance sheet?
That's 2 pages,
Yeah.
well, it actually prints on, that report prints on 2 pages, and the balance sheet prints on 1, so there'd be
But
3 pieces.
in the quarterly reports right now, because the budget hasn't been certified, you see the actual, you see but there's no budget numbers. So we'll get you those. That's, you'll see the actuals being put in the quarterly report submitted, but there's no budget numbers in there.
That's why I started this, because I can always fill the budget column in.
Yeah.
At DHCD,
Until they push the button. It's
until
not
they
gonna
put it
show.
over, you're just gonna see a bunch of numbers that don't mean anything, because you're not comparing them to anything.
Yeah. Because they
But
have.
you should get them anyway.
Yeah,
Correct.
absolutely.
They haven't
I didn't
opened
know.
it.
Okay. No problem.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay. Thank you, Tom.
Oh, you're welcome. Anytime you want me to stop by, just
Well,
let the office know, and we'll give you a shout, and I'll come down.
As soon as the budget guidelines come out or whatever, if you can start, even if you can start pro forma with a lot of these items that we can start looking at, so we can get hit the road running whenever they give us the green light to get that budget in.
Yeah, I mean, when you put the information together, the budget, you start from the bottom up, really. You start
Yeah.
with the fixed cost, the cost of
Yeah.
your retirement bill, your group insurance, your unemployment, your workers' comp, your property insurance. After you fill all those in, you see how much you have left. What do I have left?
Right.
Yeah.
Not a lot of discretion is what you're saying.
No.
Yeah. Well, I think the other thing that relating to the budget was something having to do with lead paint certifications. I don't know why that's part of it, but that certification wasn't in for 13, 12, whatever, so it's hard for us to go back and certify stuff that, you know, we're not able to.
Right.
The budget.
They
There's
want
no
all this stuff.
discretion in the budget. Why would you not sign it? I don't get it.
Anyway,
Okay. Well, thank you.
thank you.
All right.
Thank you for
Nice
coming.
meeting everybody.
Nice to meet you,
Thank you.
Tom.
Keep us posted. Anything you hear, let us know.
I'll be around. Thanks again.
Thank
Welcome,
you.
bye.
I don't know, doesn't have to know.
All right. That was beneficial. You have one of these?
Yes, yeah. Yeah.
All right, so with that, we can go back to item E.
Just makes me somewhat puzzled as to
Pump
why
house
you wouldn't sign the
maintenance,
budget
tree
if there's not
removal.
That much discretion in here.
Yeah, I'm not sure. what
Okay,
else
so
to
you
say.
wanna talk about the tree removal and?
Yeah, as you know, at the last meeting, we talked about, we did send a letter to Guy Campina, the meeting before the last meeting, and he was willing and able to do our maintenance, but Jackie can bring you an update on the
He's going
status
to,
of that.
I spoke to Guy Campina, and he is gonna put us on the agenda to go before the selectmen one more time. He did put it through, and there was concerns about procurement, and, after speaking to him and answering the questions, hopefully that can move forward on, the different, because I think that it would be really important for us to continue with the town's people that do check their own pump house. We are gonna have a concern with the generator. Our generator's never been replaced. It's so it's just one of those one more items that we have to think about.
The Redwood.
Redwood pump house
house.
generator. I specifically told him that I really am very concerned about it. Not so sure when the last time it was inspected or maintained or serviced, so that's where we stand with that. So waiting to hear from him to see when we go on the agenda with the selectmen. Tree removal. We have a number of trees in both Redwood and Agawam. We're high wind here at Agawam and flood zone over there in Redwood, and there are some trees that are definitely in need of taking down. Two, definitely because of the sewer issue, pipe issue that we had in February, and then I did speak to Gordon Ewan, who is our project manager, who does help us with our capital projects. DHCD. And we have a pile of money for emergency modifications, and I was hoping that because of our location, we could use the money to take down these trees, with that money, because it's roughly about it was 65,000. We did have the two issues with the sewerage and the water, which brings us down to about 50. It's $5,000. We've had two quotes right now for the tree removals, and the total of the three quotes, which would be for the two trees that definitely need to come down because of the sewer pipe issue, the trees at Agawam and the trees at Redwood that definitely need to be taken down. They're all within a couple $100s of each other, which was fantastic, which I thought, because it was roughly 5,000. One guy was 5,200, and then one I think was 4,900. But so the two trees definitely have to come down. I can put that money through that emergency situation with the sewer because it directly connected to that project. So that's $400 that can be taken and paid out of our emergency money. The other, hopefully, we can use in our maintenance somehow half or 1,800 for Redwood, and then the other ones for 1,800 for Ag 1. And they did ask us to remove some trees for the project for building 2. So maybe some of that money can be towards that too. So I'm just trying to figure out how we can definitely pay for this without having further problems, because 2 storms and Superstorm Nemo, the winter storm, there were 2 trees that went back of E building that crashed onto the roof, did do some damage, and they had to replace that part of the roof. So in order to be proactive, that's, I'm trying to see what we can do. So
I have a question. Do you require a certificate of insurance?
Absolutely.
Listing us as additional insurance?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to-
They all, on their quotes, they all say, if you get the job, we'll provide you the certificate of insurances and you'll be additional insured. So,
Okay.
and the last remaining item would be yearly maintenance on the heating system. Again, I think it's proactive for all of us for here at both Ag 1 and Redwood to have a yearly maintenance agreement on our heating systems in order to get the filters cleaned, and especially with Redwood, because it is a high-tech system, it would need that extra, TLC just to continually have somebody take a look at it, make sure it's properly maintained and running properly, so we can do this in July and August. So when we do have to turn the boilers back on in October or September, it's not, we're not gonna be hit with something unexpected.
Does your maintenance people have a regular PM schedule posted in your boiler room to do?
No,
No, you don't have a PM system for them at all?
no, we're working on that.
Okay.
That's one of the things that I requested. It wasn't there, so we are working with,
Because your maintenance men can save a lot of
absolutely.
work if they do their PM.
We do check, each week we checked all, we would go and make our own in-house inspection on a Monday and on a Friday. So we knew where we stood each week. But as far as preventative maintenance, where they go in and it was, even DHCD has come to the conclusion, their inspectors, they come down and they talk to me. And one of the things they said was, this is a really high-tech system. We don't even know how to run these systems. We don't know how to perform the preventative maintenance. So that's why getting somebody in here that can either show us how to do it or perform it on a regular or quarterly basis, because I haven't even put out, the requests, to and go to DHCD and say, well, what do you think? Do you think we should, what does the manufacturer request? Is it a quarterly thing? Is it a yearly thing? Is it a 6-month thing? So those are the questions that we have to investigate and go forward with.
We'll have to build it into the budget, obviously.
Exactly. I mean, this is, so.
Seems like
generally
it
when
makes
you-
sense, and it makes more sense to have a professional do it than maybe the local maintenance people.
Some of the stuff you.
Right, some of the stuff they could do
But some of
themselves.
it's just regular routine. I don't care how new and sophisticated. A monkey could do it if you've got it, the proper people there to just check this, even read gauges to know
Yes.
what a problem, when a problem does exist.
Yeah, yes, and we have done that all winter long. So in that sense, yes, we have done that. But I wanted what I'm requesting is more of a cleaning and making sure things are working properly.
Oh, it's a contract,
Yeah.
from somebody, yeah.
But generally, when you buy, whether it's the generators or a new heating system, it comes with a checklist that says annually you should do this.
Exactly.
Every 6 months you should do that. Every 3 years you should replace the battery or
Mhm.
change the oil or whatever you do. It's
Right.
like buying a car. So somewhere, when we took delivery of this stuff,
That's
there should be
We should
a
have
book
got,
somewhere.
we should have got a maintenance manual.
Here's our dilemma. From DHCD's standpoint, we've never taken delivery. That's our problem. That's why we didn't get a year
Are
warranty.
you talking about the redwood thing?
Redwood boilers.
Yeah,
You
okay.
know, the Agawam boilers were a few years earlier than that, and they did took ownership of it. But the Redwood, that like final thing, they've never really given us ownership of it. That was their dilemma, and they had their own issues at the same time. It was just kind of a perfect storm because they had a guy who was there, Leo Cote, for 40 years. He retired, so they got somebody new. He didn't work out, and there was somebody else, and so between those things changes, inspections weren't done when they should have been done on their end, pushing whoever, Wareham Housing Authority to get all of the paperwork done and bills signed off on and what is the problem. Then we had our maintenance guys adjusting things 2 years ago to it that DHCD wasn't around to even understand that, their engineer, their architect, the people who designed the system, they didn't know the adjustments that were being made. So when you added everything all together, it was just kind of like then the issues here with Wareham, and it didn't get finished. And that's
Did
what
we get maintenance manuals?
No. End of the day.
What else is
The
there?
answer is no.
Okay. Then we
And we can't
ought to
get
beat
them.
on somebody's head until we
So
get
we
those.
should,
Okay, good idea.
What
Thank
about
you
the
so much.
company that we bought the system
Yeah.
from?
Yeah, they would be the ones
See,
who.
that-
Why
here's-
wouldn't we just call them up and say,
Yeah, send
we
us
don't
a
have the
manual.
maintenance manuals?
it may
Might be a
Because
good idea.
that's usually
Yeah,
a
seems
condition
like
of final payment.
Yeah, and they may be able to,
It is
they may
usually
be
the
able to
condition of
email it to
final
you, right?
payment.
Put it online
Right,
or
they could
something.
tell you where to go online to look for it, I mean,
Mhm. Very good. All right,
it
thank
seems
you.
like a simple no-brainer.
Yeah, it probably is. I'm sorry.
I don't know, it's okay, just,
Do you have PMs for everything else though? I mean, do you have
We're
PMs?
developing them. I mean, they had a very old system, it's almost the same thing with our policies. They had these old policies that, the gentleman that was here for 30 years, so some of it was so rote for him, he no longer updated and, but he did keep good records of what he did in the units. So we go back and we can research a unit and research when, the refrigerator or the stove was, changed out or worked on, and so in that sense. But as far as actual PMs, DHCD has their own monthly guidelines. They actually email it to us. I pass it on to them, make sure they're accomplished. Some of it's not appropriate for us. They're for bigger authorities, and some of it, is right on. And some of it we don't need to do, as intensive, because we only have one vehicle and not a fleet of them.
But it is a monthly, like you said, it's a booklet that has a month, every month of the year in it, and it tells them what the maintenance should be doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have that.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
All right. Anything else on that?
No.
All right, so, you wanna, since we're on that, you wanna do your administrator's report?
Sure. We've had, so item A was wait lists. We have 12 new applications that have come in since 5/18. We still have not received an okay from DHC to freeze the wait list. They're waiting for the FY13 certifications. We have sent out 30 "Are you still interested?" letters to prospective tenants going back from the latest applications that we have. Maintenance, I'm sorry, do you have a question, Jane?
no, I think I'm looking at the wrong report.
I didn't
Oh,
give you
last
guys,
I was
yeah,
gonna say,
Yeah.
I didn't
Where
give you
is-
guys the new one today,
You
but
didn't?
I should do this new one, so,
She's reading that.
yeah.
Okay.
The maintenance, I don't know if you noticed, but we do have new number-coded locks for the, community building at Agawam. This gives the residents better access to do the laundry earlier in the morning or later on at night. Before it was an 8 to 4 day.
And weekends.
And the weekends, they can have greater access. Some of them have personal care attendants and people that come in and help them do their laundry, so they can start earlier than what they normally had been. We did put some new lights, night fixtures on as well, so they are also photo cell light sensitive, so they come on in the dark, they go off in the light. So there's no need to have anybody here turning on and off the lights. I talked about the trees, so, and then one other, I just wanted to tell you that Joe Barboza is going to give us a quote to take care of all of our issues over in, I talked about before, between E and F building. where we have piles of debris, landscaping debris that they have just been piling up there over the last years. So we are gonna have, him hopefully give us a quote to remove the debris. So it is way too, Donna, you gave us that suggestion, that was a great suggestion. And I talked to the maintenance guys and they thought it was great too, because it's really time intensive for our maintenance guys.
Mention about the property near the school down there too, or the trees.
Yeah, we have really, anytime you're in the area, Redwood has 2 fences that go all the way back to the end of the properties. One on the one side is the school. Well, first it's the brain injury center, and then behind that is all school property. And they, I'm not sure where our property line is, but we have fencing, we have trees growing through our fence. We've
On the
removed,
school side.
on the school side, we've removed a lot of the debris, and the ladies can attest to it. We're cleaning out and getting rid of all that stuff. So we've been working on that. That's pretty much almost wrapping up. And we remove it.
By the way,
What?
he did a good job cutting all that
Yeah,
down.
they did do a good, they did a tremendous job. But the fence is all intertwined on the other side by the school. So that again, I'm not quite sure where our lot line ends. Whose responsibility is it? But you could see that it was amazing once we cut away our side to see the amount, and they've been like kind of piling up, their debris. So we have like a lot of dead trees. And we're not talking about small stuff. It's branches.
It's on the boundary in the back end, so both schools and us are using it as a dump.
Right, behind
Can you-
E-building is just, like I said, those trees came down and some of it's been removed. Some of it he's gonna talk to Joe Barboza, because that stuff is just, it's
Talk with the school department too, and
Right.
see what
what
they
is
can-
theirs. We
they
can't,
can
we
do.
it was so overgrown, you couldn't tell what was, and then when I saw the trees growing in between the fence, and I was like, wow,
What about on the
That's not good.
bottom too, the roots?
Yeah.
Is Barboza doing ag loam as well?
He is gonna give us a price. We have a couple of piles here that, again, when they did landscaping, they just put everything in the boundaries, where we have an area that's just really a lot in. My concern is fire safety. And after speaking to the dump in the town, the dump takes anything 1.5 inches and lower, branches, leaves, everything. And the town will allow us to bring our big debris up to them, and they chip it. And no cost to us. So it's just a matter of the manual labor, getting it out and getting it up. But there's some of it, like Joe Barboza has a huge, digger dump that they can come and just load up the truck, take them a few hours, as opposed to, getting our guys doing it, down there. So the vacancy units, just so I can reiterate, over in Redwood, we have 2. Both of them still are in transition, is getting fixed. One is almost completely done. 3 in Agawam, but 2 have been taken offline. And then one we finished, and one of the people that are moving, because of the transition from and handicap accessible, they've requested that unit. So now we can rent out one of the 50s, because it's 26 and then the 2 in 50 blocks. So we can 5 blocks. So we can rent. I can go and get a tenant for that now. The accounts receivable. Again, we have 3 tenants with accounts receivable balances of $59.86. All 3 are in under repayment agreements, and they have been following their repayment agreements. One tenant was given the 30-day notice to quit. She had a big balance, but that woman, I don't believe, will be returning to us. We have an amount of $12.47 from 5 tenants that we're in the process of cleaning up. Now, one of the reasons why it takes me so long is because getting back to the lack of attention to accounts receivable balances, because we have those 2 other big balances sitting in on our PHA system. I want to make sure that either did we make a mistake, so I go back and look at all the documents I have, I give the tenant the availability to respond to me, and we work it out. Either they do owe it or they don't owe it. And that's when I either speak to Bob if they don't owe it, it's a small amount, I do a write-off. If they do owe it, then we go under a repayment agreement. Sometimes they just bring a check right away and pay it off, because last month I think we had 12 tenants, we're down to 5. It's just a slow process. And I think that it does everybody well, and you can talk to the tenants that have had an issue, that we take the time so they can understand how this happened, and then they clear it up. And mainly, most of them want to clear it up right away, because these are smaller balances. You know, they're two, only one is out of these five, one has an $800 balance. Everybody else is sharing the other four people sharing $400. So they were like $36, and part of it was because when they did the changeover, you know, they paid their old amount the year before amount instead of paying the new amount. But we're working on it, and it's getting cleared up.
So those are resident receivables?
Those are resident.
Those aren't vacated?
Those are not the vacated receivables. I did not put the vacated receivable amounts on here, but I will, just so we can continually remind ourselves, and that eventually we may just, you know, because you can see on the accounts receivable listing that it clearly shows the tenant in residency and the vacated accounts receivables. They're separated. So
You mentioned something, and I'm just kind of curious. You said there's a 30-day notice to quit. Is that for non-payment?
For non-payment, yes.
You don't send out 14-day notices like the?
Again, I thought it was a 14-day notice, but our
non-payment
legal.
Right, it should be 14 days.
Let me check with her, because
Who's her?
I'm sorry, our attorney that helps me, DHCD's attorney they assigned to us. They have certain forms. This particular woman, Pat Grace, likes to be informed when we do something like that. So I just said I was going to pay 30-day notice, and she didn't give me any information. But I'll check into that. She might have just said yeah, because, you know, it doesn't matter, because this woman is gone and has not come back for her stuff yet.
Gone meaning vacated?
Vacated.
Yeah.
She didn't tell us. She ended up having to go in a nursing home. She has a greater amount of need, and she's not able to come back. You know, so.
Yeah, but there's still a process that you have to.
Oh yeah, that's why I was giving them 30 days and not 14, because I know this woman's not going to come back. We're going to have to pack her stuff up. Her family has basically abandoned her and her things. So.
Well, 14-day notices are good for non-payments.
Yeah.
30-day notices are for everything else.
Okay, so maybe I just misunderstood her. Again, we already talked about this budget and the subsidies. I just want to let everybody know that we now have scanner capabilities in the office, and our computers are networked. We have some new filing systems, and we also have online banking abilities. For DHCD, Kim Gomez, our housing specialist, will be down on July 8th, 2014 to do a check on our CAP improvements that we submitted to them. And our Capital Improvement Projects Division of DHCD will be meeting with me on Friday online to discuss the next fiscal year improvements. And I just want to say a big thank you to the residents at Agawam and Redwood that have put in gardens and have helped with landscaping, most especially with Miss Millie Clark, who donated a beautiful rose bush that's sitting outside right here. And to Miss Barbara Johnson, who has put in countless hours of landscaping to beatify Agawam Village. But there's been some wonderful Redwood people that have helped with their own personal gardens outside, and it looks great. Redwood Village is planning a barbecue on Monday, June 23rd at 5 o'clock. And we have had a very successful 2 tenant meetings, one here at Agawam and one at Redwood. And I thought, you know, it was very successful. So. And one of the things that I would like to work on, and I know, is because we have the cable out here now, I would like to get the internet availability for the maintenance. Yes, because then they can go on to PHA and document the things that they notice, improvements and things that need to be taken care of. And one other thing, if you notice, that
Does that mean initiate a work order from up here instead of there, and they connect the two systems good?
And the systems are going to be connected. And I told them, I mean, because it will keep really good records of our progress into one, like unit A11. We can pull up unit A11. We won't have to go researching 6 different Excel spreadsheets. All the information's right there. And that's it.
Just,
Okay, let's
let me follow up
back
on the residents taking care of the property. Again, I would commend all of you who have planted flowers and landscaping around your property. It makes the property look nicer and beautiful. I would ask in the future going forward, the rest of this year and into next year, we will do all we can to assist you in the outside beautification, whether it's buying blocks and mulch or whatever. But we feel that's our responsibility. So let us know what you want. We'll help you buy the stuff. We'll buy it. You'll get the tax exempt status, all that sort of stuff. And I feel that's our obligation to.
You don't wanna make that retroactive, do you?
Well, if you got the bills and everything. You got the-
Oh, we have a bill.
You got the bills and everything.
Oh, yeah, we got the bills.
We'll look at it.
But as far as mine goes, that was something I wanted to do myself.
Well, thank you.
So, I don't want anything back from, and Barbara, I mean, I started it.
Yeah, you started it
I
all, didn't
started
you?
it, then the man next door wanted his done, and then somebody over the other side wanted her to do theirs, and
Yeah.
she's been continually working on different ones.
But,
And
you know, put the package together, let us look at it. I mean, it's really our cost.
Well, that's something, the edgers is something that obviously will stay with the property
Right.
even when we go,
oh,
so.
yeah, the gardens will,
But
there's a lot of
I mean, it's
perennials.
outside is our, just like we're putting the siding on the property, not you
Yeah.
folks. We'll take care of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Stoops and all that.
We'll eat the tax if you wanna pick up
No,
the
no, no.
edgers.
All right, thank you. Anything?
I'd like to go back to a couple of things on the administrator's report, if I may,
Go ahead,
Mr.
go
Chairman.
ahead.
You mentioned two things very quickly, the CAP, the corrective action plan,
Yeah,
that Ms. Gomez is coming down to discuss on July 8th.
yeah.
We have not gone over our policies that we issued out
Yes.
a month or two ago. I'd like to suggest that before she gets here, that we have a meeting that we just focus on those policies, going over them and getting them signed out before she gets here.
Sure.
Let's have it done.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that, but she's looking at progress on the corrective action.
Right,
plan.
which one of the main things
Yeah.
on there is all the policies and procedures.
Right, yeah.
And
Mhm.
we've been talking about them
Yeah.
since January, and we
That's
did
fine.
get
That would be really
the
good.
drafts
That's
out.
fine, we can do that.
Yeah, so why don't you guys,
And when we send them in to them, we'll hear from them in about a year.
Well, I don't really care. All I want is for us as a board
Fine.
to have signed out these policies and have them on record that we have done what we were supposed to do with
Okay,
them.
So let's do
And,
that.
because they're all drafted, I mean, I think it would just be a
It's
matter
just
of
a
an
tweaking here and
an
there.
hour or two,
Like the dog policy.
a meeting that is just for that. Is
All right.
everybody willing to do that before
Let's look
July
at it.
8th?
She's coming here on what, August?
July 8th.
July 8th.
That's a what?
That's a Tuesday, I think. I don't know, I don't remember. Is it Tuesday? Okay.
Because my birthday is the
All right,
6th.
so,
So the week before that, the Wednesday before that would be July, that would be June 30th?
June
I don't have
30th
my
is Monday,
June 30th.
so July 4th, first, second, third.
4th is a Friday.
Friday.
So it's
So
July
it's-
yeah, but
2nd.
that's the
Yeah.
4th of July. Let me ask you this.
July 2nd?
My son's coming home from Brussels. He's been away a year, and we're going down there the end of June, I think, for the 4th. So let me see what that is, and we'll do it earlier if that's possible.
Next week.
Sure.
Yeah,
I want,
maybe
can meet next
Next week.
Friday.
Yeah.
What's next Friday, the
Anybody
27th?
got? We'll circulate a couple
Or
of dates.
27th, you're right.
Wednesday, the 25th, I mean, next Wednesday is fine with me. We can do it first thing in the morning if that's better for everybody at 8 o'clock. I mean, we talked about,
What?
we talked at 8 o'clock, about 8
In
o'clock
the
being.
morning?
Yes, sir, 8
AM?
o'clock in the morning. There's 2 8 o'clocks in every day, Bob. A lot of us are up and
AM.
moving by 5,
Not
so, so 8 seems like late. That's like after, it's almost lunchtime by
I'll
then.
come
Yeah.
at the other 8.
Well, we can meet in the evening too. I mean, I really don't care
Let's
if
pick
it's
a few
morning.
dates,
evening.
but that will just give you a choice of.
And I think that as a board, we have not really gone over each of the corrective action items on the plan. We haven't even gone over them as a board. And what I think I'm hearing is she's coming to talk to
The cleaner.
the housing authority about this corrective action plan and the board hasn't really even discussed it as a group.
No, but I think what she's really saying is the things we submitted to them and where we are and what progress we're making and what we're doing, we're actually doing in
She
terms of
want-
the wait lists and all
Right.
that stuff.
They wanna
Not-
see
not
the
that.
maintenance.
In effect, what she
Yeah.
said is, we don't care what you wrote to us, I wanna come down and look and see
Right.
What you've done.
what
Right.
you're doing.
Well, as a member of the board, I'd like to know that too.
Yeah, okay,
You know, and I think that we should have a meeting prior to that to just
all right, to
focus
focus on
on,
all that.
on that before she gets here,
You
so.
got that? In other
we
words,
know
go
where
over the
we're gonna
plan.
be.
Where do we stand?
Sure, yeah, yeah.
It was
I
in the-
already,
it
the
was in
highlights
the
of the things
response.
are,
It was
yeah.
in your response.
It's in the responses that I gave, you
Now
know,
it's
all
more
my
comments.
explanations on how we do maintenance calls, how we, the fact that, you know,
Were they written responses, Jackie?
yeah, in the community action plan, the CAP, there was,
Two packages.
how I responded was.
When did you respond? I'm sorry.
That
I'm
was, that
missing
came
End
in
of
that,
April.
you had that letter in April when we had till April 15th.
Okay, but not, since then, we've got
Oh,
no
no,
updates.
no, no.
is
Oh,
what
no,
I'm
no,
talking about.
I'm still waiting. She said she would email me things in a couple of days of, what exact, you know, cause I said, give me a list of what you need and I'll have it laid out here. So we can, you know, go through it quickly, you know, more efficiently.
Efficiently.
And she hasn't responded
Still
to
haven't
what
got it.
they need from us yet. And I know it's the corrective action plan, so that basically is
Well,
basically
generally
everything.
speaking, it's what it is, it's
Right.
everything.
Yeah.
It's the accounts payable, how the process of the accounts payable. It is the connection of seeing the 3 signatures on the warrant now, throwing those at board members. It's,
Right,
the
well,
fact.
I didn't mean for you to have to go into
No,
every
no, no,
detail
no,
right now. I'm
no,
just
I don't,
saying
because
that-
because I, like I said, when I went and briefly reviewed it, because I'm like, okay, the corrective action plan, I was in April, let me look at it. It's the maintenance items, those were big ticket items, it was the accounts payable, that was the big ticket items. It's the accounts
Policies.
receivable, what are we doing now to make sure that we have a corrective, making sure that, you know, we can show that there's somebody in the office putting in PHA, there's somebody in the office handling the money. So it's just those kind of things. But
So
yeah,
what we'll
I don't,
do-
she did not even mention the board at all or any of the board part of the corrective action
Right.
plan.
So we'll have a meeting, we'll go over their letter and the response updated to where it is now.
Right.
You can make marginal notes and we'll know where we stand and then she can,
That's a good idea.
you'll deliver that to her when you meet with her.
Sure.
And there's probably a good chance that a couple of days before that date, they'll call up and say, I can't come, I'm gonna do something else.
Right. I don't know.
Anyway, all right, thank
We
you.
should be prepared.
So we'll look at
know where
a
we
couple of
stand.
dates next week. Now we'll jump back to committee reports. Human Resource Committee, Mr. Santos again is at his wife's side, and that condition is pending. So-
And that's unfortunate, I'm sorry that Marion's not doing well. But I'm just wondering what kind of an impact it's having on our maintenance overall to not have somebody in this position that we've been advertising and hiring for the last 4 months. Seems like it's been a very long, drawn-out process. And is it having an impact, Jackie?
No, it isn't. It isn't a problem. I mean, because we're constrained by our finances and we're constrained by having schedules, getting and developing our preventive maintenance schedules. What do we, you know, and
Or wouldn't that
I
be
have
something that our maintenance man would be able to, we would expect him to do that?
Not usually, Jane.
No, they wouldn't?
Nah, because you usually think it comes from the office.
Yeah.
They,
But in effect,
Well, anyway,
In effect, we
down to
have
one
some-
person.
we have some part-time people and one or two of them will be applicants. And Jackie can say it as well as I can, that those guys are in the groove in terms of doing all of the wonderful work you've heard that is being done in terms of landscaping and plumbing and addressing the new locks on the doors and the
Day-to-day.
photo sill lights, and et cetera and so forth.
I mean, we have a tremendous amount of smaller items. Some of them come in, you know, they just happen to have, that's normal everyday occurrences, you know, especially for the elderly. They can't get above, you know, their sink and change their light bulbs and I'm not expecting them to either. And we've had, you know, animal issues, make sure we have a lot of hornets and bees and unfortunately some bed bug issues. I mean, we've had a lot of and especially this winter with the storms that have taken us away from.
Right. Well, that was my
continuing on.
only concern, is that
Do you
we
know what I
don't
mean?
have enough people to take care of what we need to take care of, and if we have a fiscal constraint.
Well, do you see that? Do you see what I'm saying? I mean, when you look at this down
Yeah,
there, I mean, and I
so-
told him, I said, we need to, part of this was, we got a $12,800 grant from DHCD that he wasn't, I mean, we did talk about it. So he's like, I said, and I just put it in our operating, he's just taking it straight from QuickBooks. He didn't know, and we finally had to kind of catch up and talk about this, that we did get this $12,800, we haven't received it yet. Just like, and out of this, we paid both the water issue and the sewer issue, and those two issues are gonna come back to us too. That's $24,000 between those those three items. Unit turnover was $12,800, 4,800 for the water fix, 60-something, 6,000 something for the sewer.
But are you
fix.
telling me, bottom line, that we don't even have the money to hire this maintenance person?
Oh, no, we definitely do.
Well, that's
No,
what
no,
you
no,
said. You said we
definitely
have fiscal constraints, and I thought, well,
Oh,
what does
no,
that
I'm
mean?
sorry.
With
Let me-
regard to a maintenance person?
No, that was
No, there's
fiscal
money there.
constraints and how we approach all of our issues. So that's what I meant. I didn't mean about the salary pertaining to our maintenance. We have the money in the salary line items, like Tom said, you know, what we can do. We have the guys here, they are working. I don't really believe it's gonna, you know, we need to work on getting those schedules, making sure how we handle the maintenance calls, that's all been resolved. I mean, we have a really good system right now, but, I mean, we are just a smaller operation, so it's a little bit more difficult for us, you know. But I think any improvements that we have, it'll be better.
Okay,
All right.
quickly, just not to prolong your report, but one of the things she didn't mention was that in the last week or so, we've had a pesticide or exterminators have been in and identified carpenter ants, and now there's been complaints of bed bugs, so that's rising its head, and those are expensive propositions.
So it's
so
very expensive.
$1,400.
We're facing
Bed bugs?
with that too, yeah.
Why is that the housing
Yeah,
authority's
good question.
concern? I mean, I would think that would be sort of a personal, within the walls of the building issue
Yeah,
for the tenant.
No.
Comes
No?
on
For
board of
bed
health.
bugs and
Yes.
stuff like
Can you-
extermination?
yeah, tell us.
Oh,
Donna.
no, that's definitely the landlord's responsibility. It's definitely. And the bed bugs situation really concerns me because once they show their ugly heads, and it's very, very expensive.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
What building is that in, excuse me?
Agawam.
Which building?
Well, right now, you really can't, we can't divulge that,
Yeah.
that's personal information.
Well, yeah, but it could be affecting some of us
Yeah,
that
but what,
don't know about it.
but rest assured.
You'd know.
As soon as we identified it, we've had Watch All in, they're addressing it. We did one unit, I think, and they're gonna schedule another.
No, they're gonna do, they were starting on Friday to do all of they're doing 5 units,
Absolutely.
and those 5 units have been identified.
That's your
The
responsibility.
outside, because.
Oh, for the,
Spraying on the outside?
yes, they're doing that on Friday morning.
Friday morning?
Yeah.
Are they gonna leave?
Oh, I know.
Another thing, are they gonna do the roof when they do the outside because the carpenter ants are coming down
Yes.
from the trees above
Yeah,
on building 5?
yes, we know that, yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
I have to look that up.
Yeah, on that, Donna.
Yeah.
After the first treatment that we take care of, what about subsequent things? Isn't it the tenants that are bringing in mattresses or cushions or
Well,
whatever that have these problems?
it could come from a store. You could come from a store. The bed bugs travel very, very,
effectively.
well, roaches do too. I mean,
Yeah, they
you
do.
know, and it doesn't make any difference. If it's being caused because of uncleanliness, you can rack the cost onto the resident.
Mhm.
But that's your job to inspect the units every year to make sure that they're up to safe
Yeah.
and sanitary code.
Yeah,
Yeah,
oh yeah, we.
Most of the time, the bed bugs issues, they're coming with people from abroad. I mean, in the city, they're just rampant.
actually, the watch all man, this guy is a premier guy. He spent 45 minutes talking about bed bugs because I haven't, you know, we don't have very much experience, but we are getting it. He said that 80% of public buildings contain bed bugs. And that's how he just said, so.
We spent over $300,000 on
Yes.
2 buildings
Yeah,
attacking them, and generally the first time it doesn't work. You gotta go back the second and third time.
yeah. This is a 3-level phase of
Yeah.
doing things. And the tenants have a huge responsibility in,
They have to prepare for
they have
it.
to prepare for it, and it's a huge
It's a lot of work.
responsibility.
It's a
And
lot of work for
given
elderly folks.
the tenants, you know,
Particularly.
a 2-page list of things that they have to do. They have to read it and then prepare for it, and
But potentially, from what you said, that could be a budget breaker. I mean,
Oh, it
you're
is.
talking
It is a budget
thousands of
breaker.
dollars.
It
There's-
is a
there's
budget
nothing
That
in
becomes
there
an
for that.
emergency.
It
You
is
know.
a budget breaker
Back
for
to
most
DHC.
people. Like I said, 2 buildings in Cambridge, 2 20-story buildings, over $300,000 to get rid of bed bugs.
Oh my God.
that's a lot of money.
Yeah,
That wasn't prepared. You don't put that in your
yeah, so
budget.
I mean, she,
I
you could
trust me.
potentially. Okay, thank you, so now.
And what about the larger bed bugs that are mentioned in this?
yeah, the 3-letter one is what he's referring to.
No, okay, yeah, well,
Other types of infestations?
you mean the carpenter.
Oh,
That's okay.
oh, absolutely not. That's unfounded. That's, someone's misunderstanding the difference between mice
Okay.
and rats.
Oh, that happens all the time.
Yes. So we do not have that. We have mice.
Mice.
And again, you know, there's one unit that definitely needs to, we are working with that family, and she has to
1 minute.
clean her unit, and part of it is because of that, so.
Okay, thank you. We'll take a brief intermission while the cable television changes its
Okay.
battery. All right, we'll call the meeting back to order. We only have a couple of items to finish. One would be Bill's infrastructure report, citizens participation, and Jackie giving us an update on accounts payable for the town of Wareham, which we handed out the paperwork on that. So with that, Bill, you want to pick up on?
Sure. We have 2 infrastructure projects in the works currently. The first one is the Building 2 ADP. What's ADP?
Handicapped accessible.
Yeah, handicap it.
Oh, okay.
I think.
Accessibility, disability, ADA.
Yeah.
Okay. Accessibility project, and that one, the architects are continuing to work on the documents on that, so we don't have exactly an update on that. They should be producing those in another couple of weeks. The Stoops project that's been out to bid, bids were due yesterday, and but they were postponed until Friday due to the fact that when they prepared the bid documents, they needed to have a place for alternates, and it was not on the bid form, so they've been issued a revised bid form, and revised bids will be due back on Friday, and we'll see what we do with them. I understand we have 3 current bidders.
Yes.
So those 3 bidders had to be notified about
They're notified by addendum and
Is it
and given the addendum being a revised bid form, which they need to fill out and return.
Okay. Thank you. Accounts payable to the town, Jackie?
You'll see before you a spreadsheet of the accounts payable of what we owe to the town for the sewer, $44,104. And then the payments made by Wareham Housing Authority to the town already. And I know we have a fire district, but I just put it as the town. We have the 2, you know, the $2,600, $2,625 to the Board of Health for the yearly Code 2 violation inspections. And then we pay $240 fees for the occupancy permits for the community buildings, both at Redwood and Nagawam. And the water for, then you can look at, I mean, and I was really shocked by this. The water for Redwood Village was $32.97 for 6 months. And the sewer for 6 months is for 6 months from Redwood is $10,000. So we pay $19,072 for the whole, well, $19,300 for the whole entire thing, and we use $6,000 worth of water. So yeah, hopefully they'll be able to fix the way they do this now, and won't have to pay so much towards our water. But
It just demonstrates that the total fee structure for sewerage in the town is antiquated and needs to be on a consumption basis, not a per unit basis. Anyways,
Well, that could be argued.
yeah, well,
I agree.
not me. I bring in a gallon of water and I pay for 10 gallons going out in sewerage, don't make sense.
No, you pay to operate the plant.
The plant.
Yeah, well,
oh, and
still-
then that's
still.
yeah, that
By
sounds
use.
right. And
So let's not get, let's
Right.
not go
Nobody
there.
else has that issue.
They'll let the sewer
Anyway.
commissioners decide how that's gonna work out.
Yeah.
It won't be anything that,
Anyway, okay, so that was that. What else was there? Water, sewer, there was another item. Okay, Donna, you mentioned about inspections. That money for the Department of Inspections, for the Board of Health, they came in at our request and did an intensive inspection of all the units at both facilities.
Yeah.
And when we came in last July, we also did the annual DHCD required inspections. Prior to that, there hadn't been any since 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13,
2007.
whatever. So
2007 was the last one.
that was one of the things they pointed out in their report, but
The town one should not be substituted in any way
no,
for ours, because
no.
I've done a couple with the town inspectors. They don't do anywhere near what
No.
HUD does.
Yeah.
HUD has a real good inspection.
Yeah,
They really, they do
absolutely,
good.
but we figured since it hadn't been done in 8 years or
Yeah.
6 years, we figured we better get both of them in here. And
Yeah.
Now is the issue with the town in terms of their annual, whatever. as
It's
a
an
revenue-
ordinance, yeah.
Revenue enhancement,
Yeah, it is.
so we gotta deal with
It
that.
protects the landlords though too.
Yeah,
well, they spend it all on the inspectors, so there's no real revenue enhancement.
No.
What comes in goes back out.
Yeah.
Protects the tenant and the landlord, I guess.
Protects the job.
huh?
It protects the
But they're
job.
only keeping half of it, I heard Board of Health gets half and the other half goes to the general fund or something.
No, well, most
No,
of it
goes
is,
to pay for the inspector who
The
goes out and
inspector.
does the
The whole thing?
inspections.
Yeah.
That's what I was, that's
That's
what
not-
our,
I had a
when
meeting
Frank
with-
DeFelice was here, that's what he said. He
Yeah.
said,
they're paying $25 for every inspection to the inspectors, I know that.
Yeah, I don't know, I had
I don't
a
know
meeting
what
with
they
them, and they
charge.
said part of it's,
They charge
they split it with the town.
Is that just the register
if
though?
there's anything
Is that
left
just the
over, I don't
register
think
though?
there's-
And then
Yeah,
every
I
year,
don't know.
it's gonna be $25 a unit? I think the $100
I
per
don't
unit.
It's 100 for the first one and 25 if you have a building that has connections.
Right,
But they gave us the waiver, so we paid $100 for one at Redwood, one here, and then 25 for all the rest.
oh, okay.
And all of that totals $975 and $650, is that correct?
Yeah.
$1650, rather.
All right, so that's where we stand, we'd like to get those paid to the town by the end of the year, right?
Yep.
Okay, so we'll schedule that so they'll have their money and they won't be chasing us.
And they weren't willing to waive that.
No, but they'll accept what we give them.
Yeah, they didn't miss any of it.
Anyway, okay, so that brings us to
I thought we
resident
asked them to do it.
participation. We thank you for your
All right.
patience and waiting. Now the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon, my name is Jean Alves, I'm from Redwood. So one of the things I wanted to talk about was the back of my building F. And one of the ladies took a walk toward the water. And she didn't know that all the leaves and stuff that was there. So she walked and she sunk in.
Oh, boy.
So, and then there was another lady that also mentioned an E-building that did the same thing. So I'm just saying that's probably the best thing, that nobody can put anything there.
Yeah.
Okay, that was,
Clean that
that's
all
why
up.
they used to get rid of everything.
Dump it there,
The
right.
leaves and stuff before. And I've been there 13 years, and when we're talking about how beautiful, I used to rake and do all that. But you know what, there's never been a lawn there. It's all been dirt. So maybe if somebody threw some seeds back there, they'll probably complain that the
Is
maintenance
there,
guys.
are the trees there, are those trees coming down?
They were looking at a couple of trees in my backyard,
A lot of shade maybe.
yeah. But they've been cleaning it, huh?
They have been cleaning. I mean, it's been difficult to find where the water and marsh
Yeah,
begins
yeah.
and our property ends, and it's hazardous.
Okay, go ahead.
Right, and I have just one, this is a question. I was told yesterday that air conditioners, that the housing cannot charge for air conditioners. So just check it out, that's all. You know, I'm just, that
You
was
mean for
something.
installing?
For, if you have installed,
Install.
yeah, that there should be no fee done at all. I think one place charged, I don't know exactly what she said, $70. And I know that Cohasset Heights, my favorite place, charges $65 to install it, okay, so.
We used
I don't know, I
We
don't
used
know.
to charge it, we used to charge around 65, but that's basically, you're not paying for the extra fee of the electricity or anything on it.
That's what I thought.
But you are kind of covering what it's gonna cost, the additional cost of it. It's not just to install it.
But it's also
What it's
for usage.
anticipated for the usage.
Yeah.
But that wasn't said, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's not an installation fee. Naturally, when the winter comes, we'd like you to take them out
Right.
because
Right.
for energy conservation. And if you can't do it, we'll help you. And the same within the summer, if you'd like to put them in and you can't do it, we'll help you. But I think our charge is $10 or $12.
Oh, yours is
$15.
It's small,
yours
you
is
know.
nothing compared to what they
Yeah,
were
so-
talking about, so
yeah.
I just said, let me just mention it.
Yeah.
It's
About
15.
housing, huh?
They don't,
We're
honestly,
charging 15.
Yeah, I know, I have it on.
Okay. Anything else?
No, sir, that's it.
Anyone,
Thank you.
anyone else?
Over there. No, she was talking about the air conditioning, you said take them out the window. Mine has been in the window for 3 years. I have plexiglass on the sides. You can go there with a candle, see if you can
Oh,
get any,
okay.
and there's no air at all that comes through
Okay,
it.
so
Well,
yours
mine
is,
And my
also
doctor
is
said that I have to keep it in
insulated.
there
yours
because
is more
sometimes
permanent
I need it
installed.
when it gets warm. I need that air conditioning. I do
Okay.
cover it, maybe just 2 months out of the year, maybe in
But
December
you're
or
right. Sorry,
January.
that needs
And
it.
maybe by February, something I take it
That's
off
all, yeah.
because I need that.
Like everything, there's exceptions, you know, that's a
Yes.
health
And then I have a
issue.
doctor's paper
That's a
in my
health
file
issue, et
saying-
cetera. We're talking about these temporary portable
Yeah.
things with the little accordion and the rain gets in, et cetera.
No, but I
And then you
have
end up with
plexiglass.
carpenter ants and
2 pieces
other
of
issues.
plexiglass on both sides,
So thank you. Anything else?
Well, I do the same thing. Mine is totally insulated, even 4-inch insulation that I made a cabinet for it on the outside.
Okay,
Because I had no place to put it except in the middle of my living room floor.
okay. So,
But if it's properly insulated and covered, we would like to be able to leave them in.
rules are general. If you
Yeah.
want to provide for all the exceptions, then you get 3 pages of rules, so.
Yeah.
Thank you. We're open to discussion. Anything else to come before the board?
Dates for
Just
policy
the
or?
date for the policy meeting. I don't have a calendar. Do anybody got a calendar?
June 30th is Monday,
Yeah, that
so
must be too-
that's next, I mean, so today's the
Today's the
18th. 23rd, the week of the 23rd, that's
Alright.
Monday, and 30th. 30th, you're
so
gonna be
that-
gone,
that
so it'll be
week-
this coming up
week,
23rd to the,
All right, I might be leaving that Friday, so.
to the
we'll-
28th, so.
All right, so we'll see you this week,
Or
this
27th.
next week.
Next week sometime.
Yeah.
A day,
25th, next Wednesday? You wanna do another Wednesday, or
Yeah.
Monday, I don't care.
yeah,
Monday.
I'll take 25th, or what'd you say, 28th? No,
28th is a Saturday.
No, what
You're
did
gonna
you
be
say?
gone by then. I said 25th,
25th or what?
it's next Wednesday.
Okay, let me look at that and I'll get back to you, we'll post a notice if that's okay to everyone else.
What time on the 25th?
I don't know,
No, that's.
we'll see, I know I got some doctors. Let me just check the schedule, what's another date besides the 25th?
24th, 25th, 26th,
All right,
any of
24th.
those 3 is fine with me.
Very good, we'll look at.
Tuesday, Wednesday,
those.
Thursday, do you have any preference?
No Tuesdays for me.
No
No.
Tuesday,
Tuesdays I can't.
No Tuesdays,
no
okay.
Tuesdays. So Wednesday, Thursday, anybody?
Wednesday, Thursday, okay, 25th, 26th.
I don't have my book with me, so I don't.
All right, I'll look at,
Well,
then we'll
I'll-
schedule Jackie will get a consensus of when we can meet. I'm sure that,
Just be one agenda item,
yeah,
corrective action plan policies.
all right? Thank you.
Motion
Can I
to
have a motion
adjourn?
to adjourn? Second by Mr. Lockwood, motion by Mr. Donahue. All in favor?
Aye.
5400.